This golem is hundreds of meters tall and can destroy an entire kingdom with a single blow. Even the Gundam would flee from this terrifying presence. A man, claiming to be a descendant of Yagyu, defeated the golem instantly with just a broken sword. Known to the people of another world as Ashura, this man possesses various bug-level powers. There are many known as Shura. One of them killed the demon lord who brought disasters to this other world. However, the locals do not know who this person is. As a result, they gathered all these powerful individuals to fight to the death. From this battle, only one true hero will emerge. Thus, the great brawl among the strong has officially begun. After the demon lord was killed by an unknown Shura, the locals of the other world finally began to lead peaceful lives. Young people learned word arts in school, which are similar to magical spells. Yuno was a top student among them. Under Yuno's guidance, Lucelles finally managed to make a stone float. Although it was a basic word art, it made Lucelles dream of future adventures in mazes with Yuno. Both looked forward to their beautiful life ahead. However, while they were out shopping one day, their city suddenly collapsed. All buildings turned to rubble in an instant. The maze turned into a golem that stood up. This reminded Yuno of the fear under the demon lord's rule. At that moment, Lucelles was killed by a smaller golem released by the larger one. Yuno wanted to help but was too frightened by the devastation and ran away, abandoning Lucelles. Once outside the city, she saw the once bustling metropolis reduced to ashes and ruins. Suddenly, she heard a noise behind her. The golem had found her. Yuno used her knowledge to attack and surprisingly defeated the golem with one strike. She was stunned. The golem was so easily defeated, which meant she could have saved Lucelles earlier but had run away out of fear. Unbeknownst to her, she had just happened to hit the golem's weak point. Just then, sounds nearby revealed that a group of golems had surrounded her again. Yuno calmly unleashed a wide-range magical attack, but this time her luck did not hold. Her attack missed the golem's weak points. A man named Sujuru suddenly appeared, offering to eliminate all the monsters if Yuno would treat him to dinner. Despite witnessing Sujuru's formidable strength, Yuno still thought his broken sword was inadequate against the massive golem and believed escaping was the smarter choice. However, Sujuru found the battle intriguing, having never faced such a colossal enemy. Ignoring Yuno's advice to flee, he charged towards the golem in the town. What shocked Yuno even more was his sprinting speed. In just a moment of distraction, he had already reached the huge golem. The golem detected the intrusion and demonstrated its formidable power the next second. Yet Sujuru easily dodged its intense attacks. While avoiding, he even managed to effortlessly defeat smaller golems. Despite the dire situation, he seemed to handle it with ease, even suppressing the giant golem for a time. However, as Sujuru impressed, the golem showed intelligence, chanting complex spells and emitting a suffocating force from its chest. Yuno grew tense, recognizing this as the powerful attack that had previously destroyed the city. But Sujuru, stepping on smaller golems in midair, swiftly decapitated the giant golem with one strike. Still, he knew this was not the golem's weak point. Only by destroying its core could he truly defeat it. After the giant golem fell, the smaller golems also lost their power. Yuno was surprised by how Sujuru defeated the giant golem. Sujuru explained that these golems were originally lifeless, merely animated by life-giving word arts. To defeat them, one simply needed to target the location of the word arts to cut off their power source. Afterwards, Yuno gave Sujuru the food they had agreed upon. Once dinner was dealt with, Sujuru decided to continue searching for strong opponents, while Yuno suggested he head to Oriatia, the largest kingdom in the other world. The kingdom was currently gathering Shura from around the world to find the hero who killed the demon lord, making it a suitable place for Sujuru to find strong adversaries. She offered to guide him there. Officially, Yuno appeared to be considering Sujuru's interests, but her real intent was to use others to defeat him. This world is not short of formidable individuals, including Krafnir, who has mastered word arts to its peak, Kazuki, who freed the northern fortress, and even the mysterious creature Luknoka. Yuno, harboring a desire for revenge against the strong, decided to have Sujuru killed. She suspected that the labyrinth had activated in response to Sujuru's presence or his desire for battle. Although she couldn't kill Sujuru herself, many powerful individuals and other travelers were converging on Ariatia. Surely, one of them could defeat Sujuru. It was the strongest dragon on the surface, capable of annihilating an army of 100,000 with its powerful breath alone. Yet this formidable being was still instantly killed by a lower-tier wyvern. Just recently, Oriathia's 6th general, Hargent, received news of the dragon's injury. Confident he could become a legendary dragon slayer, he arranged numerous aerial traps. Unexpectedly, the dragon abandoned its pride and launched a surprise attack by crawling like a lizard. If his subordinates hadn't used word arts to quickly transport Hargent out of the headquarters, the entire army would have been doomed. Vikaon, witnessing the scene, openly mocked the humans, but Hargent, driven by a desire for revenge for his troops, was stunned by the injuries on Vikaon. Dragon scales are known as the strongest defense, and he found it hard to imagine who could have inflicted such damage. It turned out that among dragons, a rare mutant following the law of large numbers existed. Vikaon, tired of such weak prey, admitted that even dragons were powerless before this being, a hero favored by fate. After resolving Hargent's doubts, Vikaon decided not to waste more time. However, noticing a figure nearby, it began to question its existence. This figure was named Alus, a member of the wyvern tribe, born with 3 forelimbs and thus ostracized from his group. But he felt his extra limb yearning for something new, eager to grasp things it had never encountered before. To prove he was not just an ordinary wyvern, he decided to destroy the legendary dragon tribe. Alus shot a bullet containing deadly poison into Vikan's eye, which would spread through the nerves until death. The once dominant ruler of the skies was now dethroned. Hargent was irate. It was his prey, and yet it had been taken from him. However, Alus felt that helping a friend was only natural. Still, Hargent had slain countless wyverns to gain his position, and there was no going back to how things were. Despite this, he felt it was not enough and sought greater glory through dragon slaying. Alus respected Hargent for these ambitions and even planned to compete in Ariatia's hero contest to win honor for him. But before Hargent could respond, Vikaon, in a dying counterattack, unleashed a powerful dragon breath. Hargent wanted Alus to take cover behind him, but Alus was no longer the weak being he once was. Now, he could be considered one of the strongest in the world. Seeing Alus's strength, Hargent declined the offer, because he wanted to achieve his desires through his own efforts. After the true demon lord died, the world was left with many powerful Shura who could easily overturn the entire world. Each one was a disaster for the weak. Thus the world urgently needed a hero to stabilize the situation. Terran, formerly the 23rd general of Oriatia, declared independence from Oriatia after the real demon lord's death and prepared for a potential war with Oriatia. Upon returning to his office, Terran called out for Daai, who handed over the Cold Star, a magical artifact recorded from the era of the demon lord. It served as the power source for a super-large labyrinth golem, able to convert solar energy into a destructive beam through a crystal. This transcendent object, not tolerated by Beyond, had been banished to their world. Daai's magic sword, also a banished item, could secure an absolute first strike. From the Cold Star incident, it's clear that Yuno's enemy is Daai. He caused the super-large labyrinth golem to go berserk in his attempt to seize the Cold Star. Unfortunately, due to Sujuru's intervention, the remains of the golem were recovered by Oriatia. Although Taran believed Daai could have defeated the golem, he never claimed to be a swordsman. Taran has a new mission for Daai. Recently, caravans entering the Duchy of Lithia have been frequently attacked by bandits, likely instigated by Oriatia. While Lithia's skies are protected by a wyvern corps, they are helpless elsewhere. Oriatia aims to observe Lithia's response tactics through these bandit attacks, whether it's delays caused by wyvern attacks or intelligence on the transport of valuable goods, indicating spies from Oriatia within Lithia. Taran needs Daai to identify and eliminate these spies. That night, Daai located the spies' hideout. They had disguised themselves as merchants to infiltrate Lithia and probe for vulnerabilities in its air defense. Using his extraordinary senses, Daai determined the spies' personnel layout. Soon, only 2 spies remained. They attempted to feign surrender to buy time, but Daai killed one immediately without giving them a chance. The other spy tried to surrender, but Daai brutally killed him as well. These visitors from beyond are so powerful they hardly seem human. Daai can detect high-speed bullets, observe the world with extraordinary vision, and possesses insight and wisdom beyond measure. He can break through impregnable labyrinths alone and has incredibly precise and swift hands, capable of executing unstoppable thefts in an instant. He is an outlaw who crosses world boundaries to plunder, and is known as Daai. In this world, only Regnagy commands the wyvern corps that dominates the skies. Under his leadership, the wyvern corps functions like a massive organism, its wisdom deeply rooted in the duchy's core. At nightfall, the wyverns soar over the duchy, but today, Regnagy has called a meeting. This meeting is to execute a fallen member. It turns out a human child from the duchy has gone missing, and reports suggest the deputy commander of the southern unit swallowed the child whole. Regnagy is furious. The wyvern corps is tasked with protecting the people of Lithia, and in return, they need not worry about food. This is a mutual exchange. To prevent such foolish acts in the future, Regnagy warns that harming citizens could erode trust in the wyvern corps, leading to starvation for the entire tribe. Without further ado, Regnagy decides that executing the transgressor is necessary to quell human anger. Regnagy vows to train his kin to be superior to any other wyvern and promises never to abandon them. After work, Regnagy visits Princess Kurt's room. Although Kurt is blind, she still makes daily records in her books to forever remember her conversations with Regnagy. Kurti is curious if Regnagy likes this country, but he may not. Right now, he wants to hear Kurti sing. Even though there are many better singers, Regnagy loves listening to Kurt singing. Today, no one can explain what a true demon lord is, or what it did to Kurt's homeland. Kurt couldn't witness it herself, because she had lost her sight before then. Kurt firmly believes that it was the songs she heard in the darkness that brought back their sanity. Regnagy wants Kurt to leave the country, but she refuses since her mother is the queen of this nation. Despite the potential for war and death, she doesn't want to be apart from Regnagy. It is said that angels originally existed in the world, and together with the word God, they created the world. Angels loved to sing because the lyrics were the origins of word arts. If only Regnagy were an angel. Since all the spies sent by Oriatia's 17th general were killed, and with General Elia away on a covert mission, the only option was to report first to the supervisor, Hido. Aware that sending more spies would be a death sentence, Hido decided on a different approach, releasing the imprisoned Nihilo. Hido asked the woman in the cell how many people it would take to achieve what 10 elite Oriatian spies could not in a day. Unbeknownst to him, Nihilo alone was sufficient, as she was a fearsome entity capable of single-handedly annihilating an entire Oriatian legion, known as the most heinous biological weapon in existing records. Meanwhile, in a secluded forest, Alia had been undercover for 6 months. She was told from a young age that beauty was a gift from angels, but she believed that beauty truly emerges only when talent is combined with effort. In the village, Alia noticed the elven girl Yavika also taking a bath. As it was Elia's last night there, she wanted to enjoy a bath before leaving and shared with Yavika the system of word arts. Human knowledge divides word arts into 4 categories. Thermal arts, used in cooking. Force arts, which can make objects move, such as making arrows turn in mid-air, with the powerful even achieving short flights. Craft arts, which can change the shape of objects. And life arts, essentially medical arts, altering the properties but not the shape of objects. Life arts is Elia's specialty, although her true expertise lies in harnessing energy. After her bath, Alia encountered Kia, who had been secretly watching her in the woods. Word arts should be used with a full understanding of the target and involve chanting special spells to communicate with their soul. However, there are exceptions, and Kia's word arts defy the world's principles. Alia will take her to Oriatia for schooling to keep her powers hidden from evil forces. Alia advises Kia not to use her abilities recklessly, but Kia is unconcerned, knowing that if someone provokes her, just her saying "die" could kill them instantly. Alia's sole reason for taking Kia to study in Oriatia under a false identity is to enter a competition that decides the title of hero. She believes Kia's abilities can defeat any opponent, and winning the title would ensure Alia, born a commoner, is never looked down upon again. Before leaving, Kia wants to take one last look at the village, while Alia has her own plans. During her time helping develop the elf village, she secretly recorded its defense architecture and sent information about its rare herbs to Oriatia. Her investigation revealed that this secluded, fog-enshrouded haven is a treasure trove for Oriatia. The existence of a being capable of using omnipotent word arts was rumored even during the era of the true demon lord. Now, eliminating everyone who knows about world word would secure their safety. As they reach the mountain summit, Kia uses world word to clear the weather. This is the world's strongest mandrake with 42 arms that can defend without any blind spots. It possesses dueling skills honed over decades with copious amounts of blood, contains unstoppable toxins within, and has a body trained to the extreme. It obeys all yet is controlled by none, making it the most free slave in the world. To counter Oriatia, Lithia's Terran has enlisted powerful mercenaries, Shulk and Higari. Terran has heard of Higari, reputed to be an undefeated gladiator on the border for over a decade, which means it has been compliant to slave traders all these years. Higari was born in a remote mandrake community that had become enslaved by humans. Soon, the audience grew unsatisfied with killing defenseless mandrakes, so the slave master demanded Higari fight humans, providing him with a broken sword. Higari agreed to fight and killed his opponent with poison within 2 rounds, claiming the enemy's weapon as his trophy. His next challenge was to face 3 swordsmen simultaneously, where a spectacular death would complete his mission. However, Higari didn't understand what death meant. In the arena, there were only 2 outcomes: kill or be killed. Using his terrifying poison, he won again, storing the enemy weapons inside his body. Soon, the slave master decided to sell him to another city where he would face even stronger enemies. Higari didn't want to die, so in subsequent fights, he not only learned various combat skills, but also used his tentacles to manipulate weapons. Higari became widely known as the strongest gladiator, undefeated to the extent that no one wanted to see him lose or fight him anymore. But life had little meaning for him if he just lived. He was not attached to life, he just didn't want to die. However, his chance soon came as the real Demon Lord's undead army invaded the town. Facing the Demon Lord's forces, Higari understood the essence of killing and being killed. He couldn't recall how many he had killed so far, so he couldn't let these foes defeat him. At that moment, Higari's pride as a strong being awakened. When discovered, it was said that Higari was single-handedly slaughtering the Demon Lord's army. Daai noted that Higari's body stored many weapons. Terran wanted to emulate the Demon Lord by equipping his forces with a formidable individual warrior to instill fear in the enemy. Unlike Shulk, who as a mercenary needed sufficient payment to act, Higari operated differently. Shulk wanted information on the real Demon Lord's death site, to which Daai had no objections. Meanwhile, the quiet Higari captured his attention even more. People thought mandrakes could only use 3 arms at once, but Higari could use all 42. Men often mention that angels are right beside them, yet no one knew an angel was truly by his side. After several years, Kuzi returned to the church as Nihilo's bodyguard. He learned that Nihilo had become a prisoner and wondered if her release meant her sins were forgiven. However, she was released only to assist Hideo under a deal. Although Kuzi often claimed to be weak, Nihilo didn't believe him, as they both survived the era of the real Demon Lord. Kuzi credited his survival to the angel beside him. At night, Kuzi planned to guard outside Nihilo's door. Then, Repel approached Kuzi, asking for his help in supporting Lithia against Oriatia, as only then could they gain Lithia's protection. However, Kuzi's refusal led to an assassination attempt by Lithia, thinking his refusal indicated ties with Oriatia. Kuzi defended himself with his shield, and mysteriously, the assassin died just when he thought he had succeeded, followed by another assassin's death. Kuzi claimed it was the angel's punishment. During the fight, Repel was accidentally injured, her organs pierced by an arrow. After burying her, Kuzi wondered if Nihilo, who had once died, had seen any angels. But to her, angels were just a figment of some people's imagination, unaware that they indeed existed. Kuzi explained that the angel had always watched over him, killing those who tried to harm him. This angel, unknown to anyone but Kuzi, was a non-physical being with the absolute power to end life. She was the assassin angel, Nastique. Sujuru joined the Oriatia faction to battle strong opponents, and encountered two formidable fighters from Lithia. He approached them to fight, but was wounded after briefly clashing with Shock. Unable to see Shock's movements clearly with the naked eye, Sujuru had to predict and react. Sujuru planned to exchange blow for blow, but his blade passed through gaps in Shock's skeleton. Shock told Higari to grab a horse and escape. In an instant, weapons extended from Higari's body, striking Oriation soldiers and poisoning them quickly. Only Yuno survived by chance, as Higari needed her to ride the horse back to Lithia. That night, General Six arrived to support Oriatia, but Hito was ungrateful. His transport troops also ran into trouble due to Hargant's failed dragon hunt. Unbeknownst to them, Wyvern Alice was approaching, drawn by Lithia's seizure of the Cold Star. The city then suffered a devastating attack. Hito could not believe Terran would forsake her principles to launch an attack. The patrolling soldiers were found poisoned, and Sujuru was presumed dead. Fortunately, Hito had sent Kuzi to infiltrate and assassinate within Lithia. However, Lithia's Wyvern troops were already mobilizing. Hargant, proud and never one to flee from a Wyvern fight, vowed to fight to the last man. Hito ordered Nihilo to protect Hargant and eliminate the Wyverns. If Kuzi's mission failed, Nihilo was to destroy Lithia. If they won the war, she would be granted citizenship in Oriatia, with rights equal to humans. Finally, Nihilo reclaimed her combat partner. Only by piloting the undead weapon Helnetin could she truly feel free. Before the war began, Yuno was taken to Lithia by Higari. Daai confirmed she was just an ordinary person who could leave at any time. However, Yuno recognized him as Daai from the demonic sword and condemned him for conquering the labyrinth and stealing magical artifacts, which led to the golems going berserk and killing everyone. Daai argued that the labyrinth would have been conquered sooner or later, and that the destruction of the labyrinth city was inevitable. Yuno could not calmly accept the deaths of her friends and family, especially as they were planning to start a war. Unknown to her, Daai disliked war but was indifferent to whether it would break out. Yuno realized once again that in a world ruled by the strong, the fates of the weak are disregarded. She wanted to seek revenge against Daai, but she was no match for him. Meanwhile, Shock had shaken off Sujuru and successfully returned. He assessed Sujuru's strength as quite formidable, speculating that he might also be a visitor from beyond. Terran suspected Oriacha's decapitation strategy, but she had no plans to flee. In the era of the real Demon Lord, the world was always under the shadow of fear. Now she intended to use that fear to subjugate others. It was she who would blow the horn of war, believing in a world where freedom and strength could be fully expressed, a world her people also longed for. Terran sent Regnigi to clear obstacles and attack the city. The city was in chaos due to the bombardment from the Cold Star, with fierce fires blazing between buildings. Wyverns indiscriminately dropped bombs over the city. Hargant almost died trying to protect the civilians, but was saved just in time by Alice. Against the individually powerful Alus, the mighty Wyvern troops were easily defeated. Recognizing Alice as a traitor to their kind, the Wyverns attacked him en masse, intent on killing him. However, Alus, armed with a whistle arrow of courage, effortlessly eliminated his own kind. At the same time Lithia launched the bombardment, Alia, accompanied by Kia, was searching for Lana, the last person aware of the existence of World Word. Alia lied that Lana had been captured by thieves. Ostensibly on a rescue mission, her real intention was to discreetly eliminate Lana. Kia used the power of World Word to make the guards fall asleep, while Alia ruthlessly killed the sleeping guards, determined to keep the existence of World Word a secret. Soon, they found Lana locked in a cell. Alia sent Kia away on a pretext, and Lana quickly realized Alia was there to silence her. At that moment, Higari appeared in the cell, asking Kia how she had bypassed the guards. Kia activated World Word to protect them from harm, causing Higari's weapons to fall. Higari, realizing there were many unknown powers in the world, attempted to use poison gas, but it had no effect on them. The next moment, Higari turned to ash. Kia was confused. She had not intended for him to die. Meanwhile, Lana had escaped. Alia, worried about exposing Kia's identity, wanted to give up the search. but Kia was concerned for her friend's safety and unwilling to quit. However, it wasn't Kia who killed Higari. It was Kuzi, hidden in the shadows. Higari's poison gas attack had threatened Kuzi, prompting the angel to intervene and take his life, as any attempt to harm Kuzi would result in the angel's lethal response. Sujiro, on an assassination mission, boldly entered through the main gate. Facing the enemy soldiers' barrage, he blocked countless bullets with just a knife. Unexpectedly, a giant bioengineered spider followed him, and anyone who touched its web would surely die. In the presence of such powerful beings, ordinary people were merely cannon fodder, and even artillery couldn't harm them. Sujiro, feeling ignored, demanded to know what exactly Nihilo was. Although Nihilo knew they were on the same side, Sujiro didn't care about such details. He just wanted to fight the strong. Facing Sujiro's rapid sword strikes, Nihilo managed to barely dodge with her spider. However, Nihilo wasn't there to fight Sujiro. She was there to suppress the enemy forces. Suddenly, Nihilo realized she had lost one of her spider's eyes. It turned out she hadn't completely dodged the previous strike. Considering her spider was so tough that even dragon's breath couldn't damage it, Nihilo couldn't imagine what kind of magical artifact Sujiro was using. As someone already dead, she was adapted to the spider's immense weight and high speed. Its web could easily slice through the artillery of a large army, and its shell could block ordinary attacks. Her sole pursuit was the ultimate domination over living beings. Elsewhere, Alice was moving toward the Duchy of Lithia. By then, Regnagy had already figured out the capabilities of his magical artifacts. Alice's strongest attack was the Luminous Blade, with a slashing range of 4 meters. He also had the Trembling Bird, a sword that could autonomously seek out enemies, which his troops were prepared to counter. Additionally, Alice possessed an enchanted whip with an attack range of at least 12 meters, which was his most formidable weapon. Alice's primary weapon was a shotgun capable of firing magic bullets that were lethal on impact. The strategy was to continuously disrupt his shooting and reloading by engaging him from beyond his 12-meter range. The Suicide Squad would simply charge mindlessly. Led by Regnagy, the Wyvern group faced Alus, who advocated for individual development. Upon encountering Alus, who had left his tribe, Regnagy spared no effort in mocking him. The response to the taunts was a shotgun blast. Alus quickly reloaded and aimed at Regnagy, but was unexpectedly blinded by smoke released by the Wyverns. As he emerged from the smoke, human bullets followed closely. Regnagy, holding the home field advantage, relentlessly taunted Alus as a fool, while continuously harassing him from a distance. Even though Alus used both the Luminous Blade and Enchanted Whip, he couldn't harm Regnagy. Then he dropped a drop of crimson liquid from a sealed canister, causing an immediate explosion upon hitting the ground. However, Regnagy was only concerned about ensuring Kurt was not involved. The deaths of others didn't matter. Alus found an opportunity to use the Enchanted Whip in a sneak attack, but the Suicide Squad once again blocked the attack for Regnagy. Regnagy proudly stated that today's Wyvern group is different from before. He has modified all Wyvern's brains to be unafraid of death. During their conversation, Alice was again targeted by a sniper from Lithia. Regnagy taunted that his speech was meant to make Alice realize how useless he was. Alice couldn't dodge in time and was shot down. Regnagy ordered all Wyverns to encircle him. Recalling that Alice didn't bleed when shot previously, Regnagy speculated that if the arson was intentional from the start, it was surely to use the fire to conceal his movements. And his guess was correct. Soon, the Wyverns found Alice's trace. Alice could only fight while fleeing, with Regnagy closely pursuing him. Regnagy despised Alice's decision to leave the group and was determined to eliminate him at any cost, even transforming his subordinates into suicide bombers. Then, Regnagy summoned countless venomous bugs to bite Alice. The previous explosion smoke was specifically used to attract these insects. All of Alice's actions were within Regnagy's tactical anticipation. Soon, Alice was nearly overwhelmed, struggling even to hold his magical sword steady. Regnagy mocked that no matter how many magical artifacts Alice found, they were all useless, unlike the real treasure he had found. As a fierce fire suddenly erupted, the entire Wyvern troop was annihilated. Now, dragging his dying body, Regnagy struggled to fly. With his life nearing its end, he wished to see the human girl he considered a treasure just one more time. As the war between the two nations officially began, the city became a sea of flames. Citizens completely descended into madness, killing anyone they saw. Suddenly, Shock appeared and rescued Kia and Alia. He realized they were not from Lithia. Alia knew that if Kia simply said die, even demons would instantly perish. The challenge was how to accomplish this without alerting the enemy. Kia, trembling, explained that they had only come to Auriatia to study. Seeing their situation, Shock decided to let them go and pointed out a way to escape. Kia wanted to know his name, but Shock had long abandoned the name he used in life. Alia hoped Kia would leave the city with her. She wished she had had a trustworthy adult by her side when she was young, someone who could have preserved her innocence towards the world. Unfortunately, she had not. Now, she had to find happiness on her own. Kia refused to leave, unable to bear the thought of not being able to save her friends and not wanting to regret her decision as she grew older. As Kia shared her thoughts unaware, Alia was already being influenced by the world word. Following Alus's explosive defeat of Wyvern General Regnigi, the Wyvern troops were left leaderless and completely annihilated. Daai ordered the withdrawal of all human forces, waiting for Nihilo to challenge him one-on-one. In this world dominated by the powerful, fleeing was not an option for him. Daai knew that Nihilo had a life core that needed to be eliminated to end the fight. However, the spider's shell was incredibly tough, impervious even to his magical sword. Daai noticed a notch on the spider's body, likely made by another strong fighter. He lured Nihilo to a nearby fountain and secretly directed the firing of the cold star beam. Unexpectedly, the spider was not only immune to blades and bullets, but also unaffected by the high temperatures of several thousand degrees. Nihilo turned the tables on the hidden humans. Realizing his miscalculation, Daai had led Nihilo under the water, hoping that heating it afterward might create bubbles in the cracks. However, the spider's body was completely sealed, a feat only possible because Nihilo was not a living being. Daai, frustrated that none of his tactics worked, grew even more curious about who had managed to notch the spider's head. Then he was knocked away by the spider. He clarified that he was not a swordsman, but a thief, and his real skill was stealing others' weapons. Daai considered that if the spider was akin to a biological tank, then its driving force would be its nerves, with commands likely issued through neural mechanisms. With this understanding, he believed it could be disrupted. Conveniently, Daai had stolen a poisoned sword hidden inside Higari's body. Utilizing his exceptional observational skills, he attacked the brain's nerves with the deadly toxin. The wound made by Sujuru unexpectedly provided Daai an entry point. Without the protection of its shell, Nihilo was forced to retreat. Meanwhile, Lana, frightened by the power of World Word, fled to the tower, releasing the cold star. She couldn't believe that Higari, capable of destroying Auriatia, had turned to ash in front of a real monster. Just as Lana picked up the cold star from the ground, Kia and Alia arrived. Seeing her city resembling a scene from the apocalypse, Lana intended to use the cold star to kill everyone on the ground. However, Kia used World Word to dissipate the energy and, despite Alia's objections, activated her power to erase all the suffering the city was enduring, comforting Lana that she no longer needed to be afraid. Then, Alia embraced Lana, who realized Alia actually wanted to silence her. Lana pleaded with Alia not to kill her, unaware that Alia had already been influenced by Kia's World Word. The girl never imagined that her first time holding hands with her beloved would also be the last. Regnigi, having been counterattacked by Alus, only wanted Kurt to escape before he died. Kurt could hardly believe that Regnigi could lose. He warned her that the duchy was finished, although in the end, everything was self-destructive. Still, he believed he had won against Alus in the end, because he had found his own treasure. He urged Kurti to flee before the Auriatia army arrived, content to die as long as Kurt was safe. Unexpectedly, Hargent arrived, mistaking Kurt for a captive. Kurt shielded Regnigi behind her, despite others seeing Regnigi as a monster who slaughtered humans. To Kurta, Regnigi was her best friend, offering her more help than any human ever had. Hargent didn't want Kurt to bear the blame for harboring a criminal, but Kurt knew what she was doing and understood who Regnigi truly was. He had always been her angel. Struggling to stand, Regnigi charged at Hargent but was hit by a bullet from outside the window, and Kurt fell alongside him. At this moment, Hargent also spotted Alus outside, who was a dear friend to him. Thus, he resolved to bear all the hatred himself. Then, Kuzi arrived with a real angel. affirming that everyone has the right to redemption. Kurte had always held a wish to help her mother, Terran. By this time, Terran had lost count of how many enemies she had slain. Shock had been waiting for her for a long time. He asked Terran if she regretted starting the war. Terran did not regret it, understanding that initiating war meant being prepared to lose everything. What she regretted was not being able to bring happiness to her people, having dragged them all into a war for a vague ideal, only to die without having repaid anything. Terran pulled out a piece of paper. She had sent many to investigate the land where the Demon King had died, but all were thwarted. The land still harbored unknown monsters, yet neither the bodies of the heroes nor the Demon King had been discovered. Then she urged Shock to leave quickly. Shock thought she could have been a great queen, unaware that Terran was referring to the Demon King. After defeating Nihilo, Daai returned to the prison to release Yuno. However, Yuno could not accept that being powerful meant being indifferent to the destruction of her city, while just witnessing the death of a friend felt like being in hell to her. Daai remained indifferent. Although he had a favorable impression of Terran, he believed that as long as one lives, new encounters would happen. Yuno attempted a surprise attack from behind Daai, but he blocked it effortlessly. Unexpectedly, Sujuru suddenly appeared at the door. It turned out that everything was Yuno's scheme. She never believed she could achieve revenge on her own. She hoped Sujuru wasn't killed by Shock, so she left marks along the way, believing that if Sujuru was alive, he would surely recognize her arrows. It was a risky gamble that she wouldn't be killed by Daai. Daai was completely taken aback by being outmaneuvered. He had heard rumors about Sujuru and knew it was Sujuru who had wounded the spider. Originally, Sujuru was supposed to assassinate Terran, but he had no interest in that, finding it more intriguing to fight the strong, knowing that eventually someone would die. Daai wanted to reminisce about Beyond, but neither had much to share. Sujuru's life had been hanging by a thread on the battlefield, and before he knew it, he was in another world. Dakai's experience was similar. No matter how many died, he remained unfazed. Perhaps such detachment is typical of the so-called visitors, powerful and thus alone. This loneliness, this freedom, might be why he was exiled to this world. At this moment, Yuno's only desire was to kill Daai to avenge her friend. She understood that she should really hate herself, but still, she wanted Sujuru to kill Daai. If everything is a matter of freedom, then her yearning for revenge was also her freedom. Expert fighters don't rely on flashy skills. When Sujuru thrust his long sword, Daai timed his move perfectly to knock it away, always managing to strike first against any attack. However, if one could synchronize completely with the attacker's reaction and counter the arm wielding the sword, Sujuru could spot Dakai's vulnerability. Yet, Daai remained calm because he had successfully stolen Sujuru's weapon. What he hadn't anticipated was that the weapon capable of damaging spider armor was actually a broken sword. Sujuru grabbed Dakai's magical sword and twisted it, and Daai could only watch as his own sword cleaved through his body. He turned to look at Yuno, who was expressionless, and then he could only fall to the ground and die. The third general of Oriyasha exhausted all efforts but failed to identify the hero. Alia believed that even without a hero, they still had their queen. Although she was too young to be involved in politics now, one day the queen would become a talented ruler. However, given the current situation, the country might disintegrate before the queen grew up. The 14th general thought that the appearance of a hero would be beneficial, as they would be the savior of the world. The queen suggested not looking for a real hero, but rather declaring the need to choose a hero publicly. If no real hero appeared, they would gather those claiming to be heroes for a competition, as the true hero would undoubtedly be the strongest. This gave the third general inspiration. Humanity only needed one hero. A year later, Terran initiated a war and was defeated by Oriyasha. Kuzi confronted her to ask about her recently deceased daughter, Kurt. Why had she started the war? Terran's answer was to replace Oriyasha in ruling the world. However, a country built on mercenaries or wyvern forces could not last. Kuzi suspected that Terran might have been colluding with Oriyashan forces from the start, staging the war to trap the monsters into fighting each other. Perhaps the country was even established for Kurte. Terran denied this, claiming she only used Kurt to make the wyvern troops submit. Kuzi no longer pursued the truth. Now, Terran hoped for a hero to emerge. to prove that there is a force stronger than fear capable of leading the people towards hope. After all, she had always been living in fear. Kuzi was relieved. This could fulfill Kurt's final wish. At this moment, Lana escaped alone from Kia and Alia. She couldn't imagine that despite the Demon King's death, so many monstrous beings appeared that were impossible to kill with human strength, making them all akin to Demon Kings. The fear of the Demon King never disappeared among humans, it merely shifted. Lana suddenly coughed up blood. She had been deceived by Alia. It turned out that life arts, while a healing word art, also acted as a delayed toxin. Thus, from the moment she met Alia in prison, her fate was sealed. Higari couldn't understand why the fire burning the city suddenly extinguished until he saw Alus flash across the sky. Kia hoped that after their studies in Auriatia ended, they could return here. She blamed herself for not saving more people despite her omnipotent power, confident she could defeat any vile enemy. Alia realized that even the world word could face situations where intent did not translate into ability. Despite being able to defeat powerful foes with a single word, she was still just a girl, not a cold tool of power. Therefore, her identity must remain secret before any duel, and no matter the challenges ahead, she must ensure the world word remains victorious. However, Kia worried she might be angry with Lana due to their discordant parting, and hoped for reconciliation upon their return. Kuzi went to the cemetery to help the gravedigger, as yesterday's fire and the berserk wyvern resulted in many soldiers' deaths, both from Lithia and Auriatia. In death, there are no distinctions of nationality or race, and the word god offers no aid in such times. Despite this, Kuzi wanted to save humanity with his own strength, but he didn't know how to achieve redemption for everyone. He wondered if the true hero could redeem everything without causing new tragedies. Sujuru was annoyed that his clothes were damaged by Daai. Since he violated the order to assassinate Terran, he might not be able to participate in the hero competition. However, Sujuru didn't care. He always followed his own choices and never regretted them. Yuno, on the other hand, couldn't forgive this attitude. Those who could easily change the world often acted indifferently towards everything. They didn't care about those weaker than themselves or the consequences of their actions. But from Sujuru's perspective, this was incomprehensible. Even his former world had cast him out. All he knew was to swing his sword with all his might and how to kill his opponents. Higari discovered the headless Nihilo inside a spider. Unfortunately, since it was dead, he couldn't help fulfill its wishes. Although biohumans wanted to be partners with humans, he knew that humans weren't necessarily good either. Then Higari found himself alone and was approached by Alice. He thought Alice was after the magical artifact Cold Star, but Alice didn't need it. Alice knew about a grand hero competition being organized in Auriatia and wanted to participate to determine the true hero. Higari had similar plans. As the world's recognized strongest adventurer, he was ready to support Alice as the top candidate,